Welcome to Bible Story Time with Pastor Chris. Kids, I've got one big question for you as we think about our lesson. And that question is, what does it look like to follow Jesus? What does it look like? I think a lot of times when we talk about following Jesus, usually we talk about the good things. We talk about salvation and love and hope and all the wonderful and beautiful things that come with following Jesus. And those things are true. But Jesus wants to remind us today that following Him is not always easy, that it's difficult and it's hard, and we have to be willing to give up things and give up even our life to follow Him. You see, our lesson comes out of Luke chapter 14, but you can read about this in other areas of the Bible. And there are people that are coming and they're hearing from Jesus. And sometimes people would come up and say, Jesus, I want to follow you. And Jesus would turn and talk to them. And often, Jesus would tell them the hard things that it would involve to follow Him. In Luke chapter 14, Jesus told the people they need to love Him more than anything. They need to love Jesus and follow Him more than their mom or dad. They need to love Him more than their brother or sister. Maybe that sounds kind of easy to you. But even to grown-ups, Jesus would say, you need to love me more than your husband or your wife or your kids or the things that you have, the money that you have, anything, even your own life. Jesus also said, if you follow me, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard at times. It's going to hurt. You're going to have difficulty. And the people had to think about that. They had to consider, do I really want to follow Jesus if it's going to be hard? And so Jesus also told them two stories. He said, suppose you're a man and you want to build a tower. Before you do that, you want to stop and see if you have enough money to finish the job. If you don't, think about how silly it would look if you only have enough money for this much tower and it's supposed to be here. He says people would come and laugh at you and say, look at that person who couldn't finish. Jesus also said, suppose you're a king and this is your army and you're going into battle against another king and his army. Wouldn't you look and see and consider, can I win this battle? If you can't, you'd send some people over and you'd ask for peace. Jesus was telling the people that they need to consider and think about the hard things and the difficult things that come with following Jesus, with following Him. Jesus said it's not always easy, but what we do see in the Bible is it's worth it. Even though it's not easy, Jesus is worth it. Even His own disciples had to decide if they were going to follow Him or leave. One of the times, Peter spoke to Jesus, and he said, Jesus, we're not going to turn away. We know that you have the words of eternal life. And Peter was so true, and it's true now. Jesus does hold the words to eternal life. Jesus is our salvation, and Jesus is with us even through those difficult times. So I want to come back to that question I asked you in the beginning. What does it look like to follow Jesus? Did you learn something new today? Maybe when we started the video, you thought about all the good things and the nice things and the fun things and the wonderful things that come with following Jesus. But Jesus in the Bible want to remind us that also there's going to be difficult and hard things. But in the end, Jesus is worth it. He's worth the hard things in our life because He gives us eternal life and He brings us back to God and He's with us through all of us. Jesus is where we find the words of eternal life. Well, I encourage you to continue to think about this, talk about it with your parents or people around you. What does it look like to follow Jesus? Let's turn to the Bible, let's listen to Jesus, and then let's follow Him even when it's hard. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.